All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ali Damron Show. I'm really glad you're here today because we're going to talk about something that I think is truly missing in over 99% of health conversations. And if you've been struggling with symptoms like fatigue, bloating, pain, insomnia, anxiety, and so many more things, and nothing seems to be helping. You're going to all these different practitioners. You're noticing like maybe it's a little bit better, maybe it's not. It's ebbing and flowing. Even if it's consistent, it doesn't really matter. This is the shift that you need. Today we are talking about neuroplastic symptoms. If you're a patient of mine, you probably have been in a conversation with me talking about this. Maybe I called it this or not, but I probably have mentioned it to you because we're going to talk about what they are, how they show up in the body, and why even like the right tests, supplements, healing protocols might not be making you better. And we're also going to talk about how even like structural causes of things that we think are structural causes of things may not actually be the reason that you're experiencing symptoms. So let's get into a story that you might recognize because it's mine. So several years ago, in like, let's see, maybe like 12, 13, probably 15 years ago, I started developing chronic back pain. And I was young at the time, 25 years old. I was really fit, like best shape of my life. I was a personal trainer. I had a really strong core, which we'll get back to that in a second. And I bent over at the gym, picked up a weight, and my back's like seized up and spasmed and did all the things. And I went home and, called the chiropractor and went there, and really, really long story short, like nothing helped for weeks and weeks and weeks, and weeks turned into years. And through this time, I went to the chiropractor, I went to massage, I went to like MFR, muscle release. I went to acupuncture. Obviously, I was in acupuncture school. I did cupping, I did dry needling, I did physical therapy, I did injections, I did MRIs, I did PT. I don't know if I mentioned that. Like anything under the sun that you could think about. I got all the gadgets. I was sleeping on my side with a pillow between my knees, all of the things. And it really sucked because I was so young and I kept saying like, oh my God, am I going to have to live like this forever? And I eventually found this book called Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sarno. I've talked about this on episodes 79 and 80. So if you're interested in the full story of this, go back to listen to those from several years ago. But that is my story around this. And I recognize, and I had people tell me, I've told you guys this before, that, oh, it's due to stress, and, oh, you have too much control over your life, and you need to like loosen the reins a little bit. And I was like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, I'm in school, I'm getting married, I, throughout this time got pregnant. Like, it was 5 years of my life at like really an imperative time. And I read this book and saw myself on every page. It was for people pleasers and perfectionists and type A and people that had been through trauma, which I was at that point, 6, 7, 8, 10 years past my dad passing away really traumatically and my best friend dying. All of these things were piling up. And like I said, I set the stage with all of that with just, I'm going to be perfect at this, and I'm going to get straight A's, and I'm going to run marathons, and I'm going to, be perfect in all the ways, right? And so, moral of the story, I treated it this way, found this way by the grace of God, and I am so, so glad I did because it changed my life. And to this day, again, long story short, go listen to the whole story on episodes 79 and 80. I have no chronic pain ever. I have no back pain that dissipated, and it's been gone for 10 years now. So I know that this stuff works. I have a lot of colleagues who treat neuroplastic pain, also known sometimes as TMS. And between all of us who are on the ground treating patients with this, we've treated millions of people that like have crazy stories, that have crazy diagnoses, that have all gotten out of pain, their symptoms, overcome, gotten their life back. So you might start feeling off. Your digestion changes. You're bloated all the time. Anxiety ramps up. You feel tired no matter how much you sleep. You can't sleep. You're waking up at 1 to 3 a.m. every night. You're tossing and turning. You're restless. You're feeling dizzy. Your IBS symptoms are bad. You start to notice some knee pain, some back pain, some shoulder, some neck pain, migraines and headaches. blurry vision, ear stuff, more congestion, heart palpitations, chest tightness, all of these things. And what most of us do, is we start searching for answers. We start maybe starting with our primary care, and they're like, yeah, we can do some tests. Okay, everything's normal. Not sure what's going on. Maybe you have some of these blanket diagnoses: fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, IBS, Lyme's disease, Epstein-Barr disease. That's not acute, right? So like if you get bit by a tick, my little boy just got bit by a tick a couple weeks ago, and luckily in Colorado we don't have Lyme's disease, but treat it with an antibiotic, like get the Lyme disease treated. But if you're dealing with things like 10, 20 years later, like it's not Lyme disease anymore. All of these kind of like just throwaway diagnoses, right? Anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder. These are all the things that I'm talking about. And so you cut out gluten, you do the gut health protocol, you take the muscle relaxants, you start getting the gadgets for chronic pain, you start taking magnesium or probiotics, you again go to the more practitioners, you start getting all of these things done. And some results, like I mentioned, maybe say some of the things I said: Candida's another one, SIBO's another one, parasites, cortisol issues. These are all things that maybe you feel like you found the root cause. And you're like, okay, well, at least there's answers to things. And then here's where things go sideways. Now, I gave you this whole ramp up because through this time when your symptoms are going rampant and you're waiting for testing and waiting for diagnoses and trying different things, the fear is ramping up, right? The fear of, oh my God, is this going to be like this forever? What's wrong with me? What do I do? This is so miserable. I can't live like this forever. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. The fear in your brain is increasing day by day by day by day, right? We're just wiring this in deeper and deeper. And when your fear increases, your hypervigilance in your brain increases as well. And so then your brain starts to look for it. Oh, I went on this walk yesterday. Is my foot pain better or worse than yesterday? Oh, I ate gluten today. Am I going to get that horrible stomach ache, or is it going to be okay? Am I going to sleep better tonight? I'm doing this perfect regimen of all these pills before bed. Am I going to sleep better or worse than yesterday? Oh my gosh, I slept worse. Is the dizziness there? Is my headache there? I was out in the sun today. I'm a little bit dehydrated. The weather's changing. Is my headache going to come back? We start to have all of this stuff going on, and there's something that's called predictive coding, which means that if you assume that every time the weather changes, you're going to get a headache or sinus pressure, your brain's going to be like, oh yeah, here it is. Here's that predictive coding. If you had an anxiety attack in a grocery store at one point and your brain was like, see, the grocery store is the dangerous part of this, then the next time you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to get an anxiety attack when I go into the grocery store or on the airplane. Or if you eat something, you're going to get the stomach pain back. Or if you deadlift, your back pain's going to come back. That was mine forever. Deadlifting was just like the worst thing for me. Running was a close second. Running was a big one because I was a runner when it happened. And so, and everyone told me like, oh, don't run. You're going to, get all that pressure and all that, active energy up your heels and your heel striking and all of that. So fear, right? Predictive coding, this is going to happen. Is it going to happen? Monitoring, preoccupation, all of those things. So you do the protocol, you follow the rules, you take the supplements, you cut out the food, you drink the teas, you avoid the sugar, and still, you don't feel better. Maybe a little bit. Maybe sometimes you're like, oh, I think this is working. Then it comes back and you're like, I'm back to square one, this isn't working. That's exactly what happened to me. And my back pain was one symptom, but I've had many neuroplastic symptoms, you guys, like so many things. I've had, once the back pain went away, that's when my anxiety just like flooded the gates because it had no anchor anymore from that back pain. And so then I dealt with like panic and anxiety in a really big way, which is why I say to all my patients who come to me with anxiety that I get it. I've had the most intimate relationship with anxiety and intrusive thoughts and all of those things as well. And I feel for you. I can put myself back in that position like it was yesterday. So here is something that I wish somebody had told me a decade ago, 15 years ago, in fact, that the symptoms aren't coming from your labs. They're coming from your brain. Physical symptoms or neuroplastic symptoms are physical symptoms that are created, amplified, or prolonged by a nervous system that's been in a chronic state of survival. Your brain is scared. And sometimes fear doesn't feel like the right word, but it is scared. Like, it's perfectionism, it's people pleasing, it's always looking over your shoulder for like the catastrophic, the worst next thing. That was me with the trauma I had faced with the grief in my life and the loss. I was constantly waiting for the next shoe to drop because it had been like that consistently in my life with those two situations, but many others, especially in the health realm, for decades at this point. And so I'm always like, I still struggle with that a little bit of like reminding myself that the next shoe doesn't actually have to drop. It might actually turn out okay. Putting a lot of pressure on ourselves, looking at a lot of fear, watching your murder mysteries, watching the news, looking at social media. There's fear. And so these symptoms are caused by a brain whose stress reservoir is overflowing. It's like, we're out. This world is terrifying to us. Everything has to be perfect. Everyone has to be pleased. You have put so much pressure on yourself to prove things to people that you're starting to do or continuing to do from when you were a child. The world is scary out there. It's just, we got to keep this adrenaline just flooding our body because it is terrifying. But here's the thing. These symptoms are not fake. They're not in your head, air quote. They are real biological experiences that we can see on functional MRIs taking place from pain centers in your brain. You have 44 different pain centers, and we can see this happening. They are driven by the brain, not by an organ system or a bone or a joint or a muscle that we think is broken. And this happens, like I said, because our brain is constantly scanning for danger. All the time. And when it perceives something as threatening, whether it's stress, emotional pain, trauma, the fear of symptoms, the preoccupation of them, the frustration and despair of them, it sends another signal to your body to stay alert, tighten up, and go into defense mode. And when this happens over and over and over and over, your body gets stuck there. Your nervous system gets conditioned to sound the alarm, and the result is chronic, unexplained symptoms. And here's where it can get tricky. You can also have real findings on labs like dysbiosis, inflammation, hormonal imbalances. You can see herniated discs and disc degeneration or tendinitis or arthritis or, other structural abnormalities on labs and on imaging. You can see it. That's why people believe that they're broken, because they can see these things, and there is this thing in Western medicine that is causation, but causation is not what necessarily has to be true. When doctors are, for example, at back pain, looking in somebody who has chronic terrible back pain, myself, when I did my MRI, it showed some disc degeneration between L5 and S1. It was like 27, 28 at that time, probably 27. Showed a little bit of disc degeneration. They're like, ooh, this is a little off. This probably is what's causing this. But the thing is, when we look at healthy people that don't have pain, they also have that. But we just don't always look because they don't have pain. There's no reason to put them under an MRI. But in studies that have done that, they actually do have structural abnormalities. And so it makes sense, right? To just say, oh, well, you have a herniated disc, or you have some imbalance in your gut bacteria, or you have a little inflammation here, or you have this other structural abnormality going on. This makes sense. This is probably what's going on. It makes sense to do that. But the brain, you guys, is just this amazing, tricky, complex thing that's not always true. It's your body's reaction to things, and this reaction is caused and controlled by your nervous system. So here's where a lot of things go wrong. We're trying to fix the body like a machine, right? We have a broken appliance, we find the broken part, we replace it, and we move on. But we are not machines. We are whole systems, and emotions and stress and past trauma and personality characteristics and diet and nutrition and all of these hormones and environments, all of this makes us who we are and how our body's responding, right? If you think about stress, your brain is constantly scanning around for threats and dangers and scary stuff. I want to talk about the emotions really quick, because emotions are one of the most terrifying things to your brain. If you grew up in a house where you maybe grew up with an emotionally volatile parent, or a sibling that was unregulated, or you were told basically in a house, like, pull your bootstraps up and get going, there's no room for sadness or you to voice your opinion or your big emotions or you to feel heard and validated, there's just no space for that. You're going to learn, your nervous system is going to learn as a child, this is how the world works, this is how we stay safe. If we cry, we're going to get like ridiculed, we're going to be like punished. If we show anger, like, anger feels terrifying, it doesn't even have to be that you were raised in like an abusive house, but if God forbid you were raised in an abusive house, like, anger is terrifying. And so to this day, probably in many of us who have gone through, different emotional things, when that emotion occurs, we kind of are like, oh, that brings us back to like second grade or when we were 5 years old or whatever. And even if it's not conscious, your body somatically holds on to all of it. Your body hangs on to every experience that you've been through in your life, whether you can recall it or not. And so those emotions that you feel when somebody cuts you off in traffic, or your kid yells at you and shows their dysregulation to you, or you get in a fight, or there's a hard conversation that needs to be had, your brain's like, nope, that feels terrifying. We're going into the danger signals. We're going to put a ton of adrenaline up, we're going to put a ton of cortisol, and we're going to shove that emotion down because we have no ability to handle that. So repressed emotions are one of the biggest reasons that this actually happens, in addition to things like, and I think that these things go hand in hand for sure, pressure, perfectionism, people-pleasing, type A, lack of boundaries, overstimulation. These are all other reasons that your brain feels very scared and on high alert. So if your healing plan doesn't address the nervous system and dialing down the danger signals, you're always going to be one step behind, because even the best protocol in the world can't override a brain that doesn't feel safe. So let me give you an example. I had a client who came to me with every symptom you can imagine: bloating, fatigue, anxiety, sleep issues, racing thoughts, period issues, all these different things. And of course, like one would do, she went to a doctor, didn't get much answer or many answers there. So then she went to another type of practitioner, a functional medicine practitioner. She had the GI map test done. She had so many hormone panels, elimination diets, adrenal supplements. She was doing all these things, and she was even doing things to support her nervous system. So she was doing like breathing exercises. She was doing red light therapy. She was doing some journaling. She was doing all these things. But when we started working together, we went through all of these things. I looked at all her testing with her, and I told her that it's not about doing more. Even in the things in like nervous system healing, it's not about doing more. It's not about saying, oh my God, my anxiety's there, I have to go deep breathe. I have to go take a time out and like really compose myself and deep breathe to make this go away. It's about teaching your body that it's safe. And every time that we teach your brain, or every time that we try to fix our symptoms, make it go away. Oh my gosh, this anxiety is terrible. What can I do to get rid of it? What can I do to get rid of this back pain? Do I need to spend 30 minutes a day stretching? Do I need to go to the PT more? Do I need to strengthen my core? Do I have weak glutes? Do I have glutes that aren't firing? Do I have leg length discrepancy? Do I have this herniated disc? Do I need surgery? Do I need injections? All of these thoughts and all of these actions are ways that also perpetuate the danger in your body, saying, this isn't safe, I have to fix myself, we're broken, and that's going to dial up the fear. Also, when a nervous system is stuck in high alert, it is going to amplify and magnify all sensations. So if your back is like for me, my back, you guys, I was so scared of it and so focused. I would bend over all the time and like monitor it. Does it hurt? Oh my gosh, I ran today. Is it hurt worse or not? And that was like years into this because I didn't run for years. How is it when I woke up? Oh my gosh, it's there. It's going to dictate my whole day. This sucks. What's wrong with me? That was all wiring it in more. Okay, this is important. This is scary. This is dangerous. Let's really laser focus on it. Let's focus on it more. And I've had plenty of other symptoms that I've done that with over the last 10 years for sure. But now I can catch it in its course and I can say, oh, nope, there it is. This is just my brain kind of detecting danger. Pain signals are danger signals, and we know what to do about this. We can create safety in our body. So I get it, and I know that, like this patient that I was talking about before, she was certainly skeptical because, of course, for years, and most of us, right, have been taught to heal from like a physical modality, more supplements, more medication, detoxing, restricting, fixing, stretching, injections. Like, what do you do to fix your body, right? How do we heal? But once she started focusing on calming her nervous system, working with her body instead of against it, and letting these symptoms be there, we're going to talk about exactly what to do for this in a second, things started to shift. And the same thing happened to me. I remember in my own journey with back pain, I kept reading all these books, and I'm going to leave some of these in the show notes below too, some of these resources, but I would read these books and these forums about people who had overcome pain doing this, and there's millions of people now that have done it. And I remember reading something at the time that said, eventually you will get to a place where your back pain will be there, and you won't care it's there. And that was absolutely unfathomable to me. I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be okay until this back pain is gone and I can live freely. I can deadlift. Because working out, I love to work out. And it was just a huge part of my life. I can run freely. I can walk and move and pick up my kids and get on the floor and off the floor without pain. But the thing is, there was a point eventually in my journey where the pain was still kind of there, but it did not impact me. I was still running and I was like, it's not a big deal. And the thing is, I didn't care. Like, legitimately didn't care. And the thing that's really cool about this is that, and like I said, I didn't believe this either until I went through it myself, but the only thing that keeps these symptoms debilitating and so scary to you is the fear itself. Once we take away the fear, the preoccupation, the frustration and despair, it's just like whatever. And once you get to that point of whatever, that is when the symptoms dissipate. But you have to get there. That has to be the first step. We can't say, like I was saying to myself, this has to go away before I feel like I can go live my life and be happy and joyful and have less anxiety. You actually have to get there first, where you're going to live your life and letting the symptoms be there or not, and then the symptoms go away. It's this backdoor way of thinking. So let's talk about how we move forward. How do we actually heal neuroplastic symptoms? So if you're a patient of mine, we probably have done somatic tracking on our sessions. Somatic tracking is one of the greatest things that we have for this, and we can see it on functional MRIs with your brain starting to change. So that is one of my very favorite ways to treat neuroplastic pain, because it dials down the fear. In an episode a few weeks ago, I recorded somatic tracking of like a session at 7 minutes long, and I put that at the end of the episode. So go back a couple of weeks ago and look for that. You also can DM me on Instagram. Just say, hey, can you send over the somatic tracking recording for you or for me, and I will absolutely send it to you. No obligation, for free. It's there. So I think somatic tracking is one of the best ways to do it. And like I said, in that recording, I explain it all, go through exactly how to do this. But it starts with shifting out of fear. Most of us are trying to feel from a place of anxiety, urgency, pressure. I have to fix this. And that energy, while extremely understandable, is actually reinforcing that survival state. It's keeping your brain stuck in this place of hypervigilance and fear and danger. So your body just doesn't respond with what you do. It responds to the intention behind it. So if every supplement, every test, every food decision is made with panic, self-judgment, fixing mentality, distrust, you don't trust your body feels that. Your nervous system knows. Your nervous system, you're never going to outsmart your nervous system. But when you start creating safety by slowing down, reducing the fear around the symptoms, getting curious with them, noticing sensations without panic, letting emotions move through you, teaching your brain that emotions are safe, validate them and experience them. showing your body that it doesn't have to be on high alert 24/7, that is when the symptoms start dissipating. And I want to be clear, this does not mean that we ignore our physical body, but it is about adding the missing piece that these physical protocols are not, like, they're going to keep you stuck. I have to say that. They're going to keep you stuck in a lot of these ways. So if nothing else, I want you to walk away from this episode knowing this, that if you haven't gotten answers, there's answers for you. It's likely a neuroplastic nervous system thing. Super common. Millions of people have experienced this. Millions of people have overcome so many different types of conditions, diagnoses, and symptoms. You are not broken, you have not failed, and your symptoms are not proof that you're doing anything wrong and that your body is wrong. They're just messages, they're signals, there's things we can do about this. And like I said, there are so many success stories. I'm so passionate about this. I'm a practitioner on the symptomatic.me website, which is all about neuroplastic symptoms. So go check out that website. Again, that's called symptomatic.me. There's a bunch of physicians on there, a bunch of different types of practitioners that treat this. There's a quiz to know if your symptom is neuroplastic. Go take the quiz. It's an amazing website that you can go to. And then you'll know for sure if what you're dealing is this, if we can stop chasing answers for you. It's not about adding 17 more supplements, cutting every food group, going to every type of practitioner, doing all this weird stuff. It's literally just about calming the alarm bells in your brain so that your body can finally exhale and the symptoms magically go away. So if this episode resonated with you, I would love to hear about it. I would love for you to leave a review on this podcast. I would love for you to share this with friends and family who are dealing with really frustrating pain or other symptoms that they're just not making headway with. It is likely a neuroplastic symptom. About 1 in 3 primary care visits are due to neuroplastic symptoms. So it's a massive thing. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. If it was, like I said, leave a review for me. I would love to know how it helped you, what breakthroughs you had through this. If you need help with healing this, you need a treatment plan for this, I can help you. We can work through exactly what this means in terms of you, your symptoms, your life. And you can schedule a free discovery call with me at alidamron.com/consults. So again, that's alidamron.com/consults, and we can go through, is this neuroplastic? Is this something else? Do we need testing? Do we not need testing? What's the treatment protocol? I can help you. I've guided thousands of patients through this already in the last decade. I myself am a walking success story, and like I said, there's millions of other people who my colleagues and I have helped through this. So you are not alone. You're in great hands. And as Dan Buglio says with Pain for You, it's your turn to start healing. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll be back next week. All right, let's get into today's episode. All right, guys, we're back with another episode on the Ali Damron Show. Today, I want to talk about the top 5 lab mistakes in perimenopause. I hope you guys are all having a great. We'll be back next week.